again, guys, for joining us. Like, it's a great honor to have you here. It's a good start of a year for us. So we're happy to start it with this level of energy, and hopefully we'll have a good year. And hopefully we'll see a few Armenian startups in your next batch. You'll find a few gems here this time. So usually the startup grind talks starts the same way, no matter who we're hosting. Where are you coming from? Who is Cristobal Alonso and who is Herman Coppola?
Go first.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. So first, actually, the first fun fact is actually that I'm not called Cristobal Alonso. I'm actually called Jose Cristobal Alonso Martin. But after I spent some years in the US and be called every kind of a strange name, I decided to simplify it and anglicize it. So now I'm Cristobal Alonso. We still put it with a K, with an H, with an E, but there's less mistakes. So I was born in Spain. So our parents were basically the second generation after the war. We actually were born right after the dictatorship. So Franco, who was the dictator, died 1 year after I was born. I think it was a very happy and interesting time for Spain. And we were brought up in a kind of a time of happiness and a lot of craziness. So the 1968 in Spain happened in 1980s. I think that's what there was the crazy times. My father is an engineer. My mom is an optician, but actually she's mostly a basketball coach. And I live in 14 different cities between the time I was 1 and 18, because my father was moving around the country doing bridges, roads, and all type of construction. So I guess my traveling life started when I was very, very small. Afterwards, I became a basketball player, which I don't look like it, but I was a professional basketball player for a number of years. And I think where I'm coming from, I think I have two kind of always thoughts when I'm thinking about my childhood. One is that I have two sisters. One is 1 year younger, the other one is 4 years younger. And I was always impressed when I look at it after. I will come home with my grades from school, and I will have 8 A's and 1 B, right? I was like, wow, fuck, I smoke, And then my dad would say, what did you get a B? Like, fuck, I got with 8 A's, and all he can tell me is why you got a B, right? And I went home and I always said, shit, next time I'm going to get 9 A's, right? Then my sister came and she got 5 C's and a B and 1 A, and my dad said, well done. I'm like, what the fuck, right? But if you look at it from a perspective, my sister actually afterwards did very well also. I was always impressed how my parents could establish that different personalities needed different motivations. How that even if we were all loved the same way, they found a way to give us different ways to motivate, but also different freedom. When I told my parents, hey, I want to play basketball professionally, they told me, whatever, that's your dream, go for it. They didn't go, you're too short, or you shouldn't do this one. They just told me, in this house, studies goes first. So if you can keep your college career while you're playing basketball, be my guest. We are supporting you, we're there with you, etc. So I always felt that I have freedom to dream and freedom to chase my dreams. So something that I'm super thankful to my parents. And also said the admiration for understanding how different individuals, even within your loved ones, needed to be given different ways. And the third one was about, my parents were super generous with us. We were very lucky of how we were raised, but we have to chase everything we wanted, right? So if you wanted something, my parents always asked me, what are you going to do to get it? And to me, it was a very good education for the future, because nothing comes for free. Dreams, you need to chase them. Even if you have them close by, you need to fight for them. And I think that was a very good learning that I took actually from there. And I also try to brought up now to my kids about how to do these things, right?
Oh, thank you. Interesting. It's motivating me already. So let me tell you a little bit of my story. I was born in a small South American country called Uruguay. I lived there for 7 years. Then I moved to Costa Rica, where I grew up. My dad worked in the pharmaceutical industry. He's been working for 50 years almost. So he got. We were actually the beginning of my story is that we're a really poor family. Back in Uruguay, my parents barely had any money to make it to the end of the month. My dad had to walk like 50 blocks to go to work so he could save money on the bus ticket to pay food for us. He was a very hardworking guy, and he still is. And he decided to start his profession in medicine. So he ended up getting a really good job, getting transferred to Costa Rica. This is back in the 80s. Nobody knew where even Costa Rica was. It was another small country of 3 million people. So we lived there, and he got moved there with the promise of, if you don't do it good in 1 year, you have to go back to your country and you won't have a job. So since I was a little kid, I understood the efforts of actually focusing and working hard on your dreams and what you wanted to do. So I lived in Costa Rica till I was 20, which was a great, fun country. If you guys ever visited or will visit, I highly recommend it. Then I moved to Guatemala because my father decided to quit. He was working for big pharmaceutical companies in Europe. He had a really good job, and he saw that the industry was shifting. People were buying a lot of companies, and they were merging. So he decided to set up his own distribution company, and he did that 30 years ago. So he actually did it in Guatemala. So I moved to Guatemala, another 3 years in Guatemala. I went to college there for 3 years, and I decided I didn't like it. Not because, I almost got kidnapped, so it was kind of weird. It was a bad feeling. I said, I should get out of here and just move back to Costa Rica. I ended up in Miami, which was a shift. Very different culture. The American culture is very different. In the meantime, I got shoved into an American school when I was like 11 years old without knowing how to say one single word of English. So I had all these people talking to me in a strange language. I had no idea what they were saying. That's why I have an American accent, because I went to an American school. But it was interesting trying to understand how you communicate with people without having the tools to do it, which is a language. So that's something I learned when I was very young. From there, I decided, my mom's Spanish. In the dictatorship, my mom left Spain when she was 7 years old. My great-grandfather is Italian. That's why I have that Italian last name. He was a violinist or something. He was like spreading love in South America, and our last name was kind of, that's where I got it from. That's the story I know. So after that, I decided to start backpacking through Europe. It was a fun time. I was in the 20s. I ended up in Spain. I had a Spanish passport. I had a cousin who lived in Madrid, and I said, hey, this is actually a pretty cool country. Why not live here? So I moved to Spain, to Madrid 18 years ago, and I started knocking on people's doors in the richest neighborhood that I found, trying to teach them English. Because what can I do as a job? I said, well, why not? I know English. They don't know English in Spain, not very well. Might as well do English. I did conversational English because I suck at grammar. I was kind of like you. I didn't get B's or A's. I got C's and D's. And my dad had a rule, said, as long as you don't fail, I don't care what you do, because I understand that school is just a transition to what you want to do in life. So make sure that once you get out there to the real world, you understand the possibilities you have and study hard for what you love. Obviously, I'm not a chemist. I'm not a physicist. I don't like physics or chemistry. So I failed those courses dramatically. And then I ended up in Spain. I've been living there for 18 years, and I think that's another part of the question, which is why I set up the company and everything else. But that's kind of like my journey. So I'm very open to new cultures. I've lived in 5 different countries, and I understand that the diversity in culture is something that we should always take into account when we're doing business and when we're talking to people. No one's better than somebody else just because they have different beliefs and culture. And that's something I got raised up because obviously I had a different Spanish accent when I was moving around, and I still have those kind of barriers even in Spain because I don't use a Z like these guys do. So they're like, where are you from? I'm like, no, anywhere. I'm Latin American. So that's my story, yeah.
Thanks for sharing this. And that's quite different paths that brought you pretty much to the same industry, to doing the same thing, probably from different angles, from different ways, but doing quite similar thing in your life. So, share what brought you to where you are right now. Where did you? At which moment did you feel that this is what you want to do, or it was just kind of a random chance that happened to you?
Yep. Okay. I think there is several factors. Actually, one thing, as Germán said, I actually also live in the U.S. in my junior and senior high school because I wanted to play basketball. So I told my parents, I need to really learn English. And I said what I wanted to do was play basketball in the US, which I did both. And I even learned some English, as you might have noticed. not too much, but some. So that already gave me a bit of a feeling, but my grandfather was an entrepreneur. He had a manufacturing facility of cement and other kind of products for construction. My dad became an entrepreneur in his 40s, and he was until basically he had his own firm engineering. So somehow there is an entrepreneurial germ, I think, in the seed in the family. Funny enough, when I was already in sophomore year in high school, I said, I want to do international business. So to me it was clear, that's what I wanted to do. Fun factor, probably my most historical character is Napoleon. So I guess world domination was part of my. So when I was in 5th grade, the history told me, how do you want to be when you get older? I said, I want to be like Napoleon. And the guy looked at me like, this is Spain, right? So naming a French hero was a bit of a funny part. But actually, when I was in Paris, in Napoleon term, in the Les Invalides, and he has this huge, and you can see what the guy achieved during his life. And you see that the guy wrote the laws that even are actually today. He did the infrastructure that was laid down in France for centuries. He traveled, let's call it travel, to many countries to discover things there, right? And he did this in, basically, 25 years, right? In a time that there was no mobiles, that there was no cars, there was no planes. So to me, it was an inspiration about how much you can achieve in a short period of life when you don't sleep. So I kind of try to copy that as much as possible. But so I think the culture was always something that I wanted to do. The second thing I always said, I want to be a CEO. Don't ask me where the hell this comes from, but I always wanted to be the CEO. I guess because I hated my basketball coaches. So I decided that I need to be the boss, so I get to play all the time. So the best way to do that was to become the CEO of companies. And I think something that I discovered early in my professional life is that I really like the idea of testing yourself in different cultures. So how do you get you have a style and you have something that differentiates you, but you still need to adapt it to different cultures. How can and to me it was a huge change to go. I was working in Brazil, I was working in Belgium, I was working in Czech Republic. I went afterwards to the Baltics, I went back to the Nordics. And every time you say, it's going to be easy, it's just changing one or two things. How can you never underestimate the culture changes? So to me, there was something clearly there from family that at some point I will be an entrepreneur. Something I wanted to do with world domination, something really, really big. And the third thing, something that has to do with different cultures. And I did my MBA, probably the most international business school in the world, which is INSEAD in France. So all of that told me, all of those things are fun. And you need to be doing things that are fun. And the last one, I'm Catholic, or educated Catholic, and there is a parable in the Bible about the guy who gets 1 talent, 5 talents, and 10 talents, right? Or 1, 2, and 5. And they go back to God a year later, and the guy who has 1 said, I kept it, and I give you 1 back. The guy who has 2 gets back 4, and the 5 gets back 10, right? And God said, hey, I gave you talent, use it, right? So we are all lucky, but I think we have been very lucky on the cards we have been given, international traveling, education, parents that love you, that give you freedom. So the only thing we can do is take that to the maximum level on our own ambitions, but also on how we give back, that we'll talk about it later. So I think all of that led to the path of an international career. Afterwards, we can talk about the entrepreneurial learnings that comes afterwards, I think.
Well, it's very interesting because it's very similar in my sense. I've never had a paying job, I think, in my life, just because I was that rebel that did not want to get told what I was supposed to do, which maybe now that I think about it, might have been a little bit of a mistake because I could have learned a lot from other people. I had to learn the hard way, so I started doing things on my own. I'm very creative. I come from the creative side. I started designing, doing a lot of design work, building stuff. And I remember a story when I was in Miami. I was introduced to this student government model they have over there, which is like, it's like the football players and they have student government, the president is like really popular, and I'm like, I want to be that guy, I was like, how can I get in? So I got into the Senate. I was an international senator in the university, and I was representing all international students. Then I realized that the president was really crappy, and I said, why not go for it and have people vote for me? So I decided to do this whole campaign, be extremely creative on how it is that I even I even we had a big cafeteria, it had all glass windows. I put my name on every single part of the glass, pretty much covered it. Yeah, it was. That's why it's kind of like world domination, but it was like college domination, you know. It's like, and I found out that there had never been a Latin American president in that university, and I said, "Come on, this is my chance to shine, right?" So I actually did it, and we had debates, and we had all this thing going on, and I actually won. And the reason I won is not because I was more charming or better than other guys; it's because of strategy. The reason I won is because I figured out that the university was split up into groups. So you had like the fraternity people, you had the people that play sports, and then you had all the international students. I had the international students' votes. I had a VP on my ticket that was the girlfriend of the most popular soccer player, so I was gonna get all their votes. And then I convinced this other girl that was in a sorority, which is like the fraternity for girls, that was most of the popular girls, so I also got her on my ticket. The reason I won is because I had key players playing for me in that sense. They were both women and me, yeah. Give the power to the woman, which is true. So in that sense, I started to understand that it's not how good you are and how smart you are, it's how you surround yourself with the people. And I understood that very early, and it was back in mid-20s, and we actually got voted out of like 5,000 or 3,000 universities. I don't remember how many in Florida, in the state of Florida. We were voted number 3 best student government. So it was like a big thing for us because we had never gotten so high in what we're trying to provide the value. So that was like one of my big learning lessons, that I wanted to do something in my life, and I wanted to actually be an entrepreneur, and I wanted to do my own business. I had my dad as an example, that he had worked his butt off since he was a kid to set up his own company. He employs more than 150 people right now. So for me, that was like my whole mission, is like, I know I can somehow. I didn't know how. I didn't know what yet. I knew I wanted to do something with the creative side. And I also learned really early that building a business is a social thing. It's like people depend on your decisions. So if you build a big company, you have 40, 50 people employed, then you have 40, 50 families employed. And those people depend on you. And I think that's one of the biggest things you can give back to the community in that sense. So early on, I started understanding that, I want to be the CEO also. I don't want to work for anybody. I think I would clash if people tell me what to do and give me orders. It's not in my DNA. And it's been hard because I didn't have the background of working in big companies. So most of the stuff that I've done has been self-taught, and that's how I got here.
Interesting stories, actually. And the one thing that's interesting to me is that kind of you started with pretty much the same dream. You wanted to go after your dreams, but you ended up doing different things, giving back to the community, employing people, helping people, or like pursuing your dreams. But Herman's path is a little bit more straightforward to me. I mean, I go and open my company, I start building something, and please tell us about it a little bit. What Cristobal did is kind of something that won't come to your mind as the first idea, like opening an accelerator. I would like you to tell us a little bit more about how did you end up with this idea, or did it evolve somehow from the other projects that we were doing, or you were certain about where you want to end up?
No, actually, it's a very interesting story. I think we have about half an hour to just keep listening to myself. So no, actually, first I run and been the CEO, CTO, COO of a number of mobile operators, carriers in Eastern Europe. So I'm been back and forth between entrepreneurial, but I basically run two large startups. I did a Series A of 3 million euros in my first startup. We're based out of Spain, but selling to Eastern Europe. We lasted about 4 years. We got about 1.5 million euros revenues, employed 20 people, but my CTO scrapped, the platform was not scalable. So at some point it was firing him or closing, and he got too many shares, so it was not possible to fire him, so I just left because life is too short. The second time I was running a company from Lithuania in Africa, so it was a very entertaining commuting between Latvia, Lithuania, Madrid, Lagos, Copenhagen, and back every 2 weeks. So very, very healthy, especially when you're plus 40. So I have been an entrepreneur in B2C and B2B. And that to me was actually fascinating. And also the fact that you can fail and you learn so much. So after my last, I ran the first accelerator before even Wise Guys in Lithuania, a startup highway, which I co-started with a local entrepreneur. But in fact, I've been a mentor and on the board of Startup Wise Guys. And in 2015, I had to make a decision what to do next. It's one of the few times that I have actually spent some time thinking what to do next, because before it was just coming one after another. I have several options, and one of them was to run Wise Guys. It was because I kind of thought about it. It was interesting. I had a chat with my co-founder, with Herty and with Ribo, and about how big we want to be, right? So Wise Guys was running out of Tallinn, one batch a year. So it was kind of a boutique, charming place, but there was nothing big. And I asked them, do we want to do world domination? So I want to be the leading business-to-business accelerator in Europe. I want to have 200 investments by 2020. Is that something that we share as a mission, as a vision? And we were more or less aligned. So then I had two talks. One was with the guy I've been on his board since 2010, Maris from Maris Dagis in Latvia. And he told me somehow, dude, you're born to do this job. You're born to kick entrepreneurs' ass to the core and kick them and kick them and kick them until things happen. That's who you are. That's the passion you have. You have to do it, right? I said, okay, that's a positive one. And then I call an American guy who used to be running marketing in Startup Wise Guys. He runs today. He's part of one of the largest VCs between the Valley and Estonia. And I talked to him, and he told me, Cristobal, don't do it. Wise Guys is a secondary player. It will always be a secondary player. It will never catch up with the big guys in Europe. It's just not worth it. I have so much fucking to do it to prove this guy wrong, right? This is the challenge I really wanted. So I decided to do it. And I think it is a combination. And by the way, I have huge doubts still about the accelerator. I said, this is only good for really rookies, for guys who know nothing, for people who really have experience. This is just, it doesn't work, right? I remember the first batch, when we finished, like, oh my God, we give so much to these guys. No matter what the experience is, no matter what the age is, this is just fucking unbelievable how much we give back to each of these people, how much we influence their life. They will remember this for their entire life. So to me, it was a touching point that our mission, which is to help founders become entrepreneurs and build great international tech companies, is something that makes you wake up for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years with no issue, even if most of us or some of us are in mid-40s. I have every day more energy to run and to have more impact on more people, right? So I don't think it was a straightforward decision at all, but I think all the factors line up into an amazing challenge that can be huge. It's our own startup. We've gone from 3, 4 people to 20 plus people, from 40 investment to 145 investments in 1.5 months from now. So it is scaling up. So you have the own challenge of your own company, plus helping many other entrepreneurs, and the chance that even the people we don't invest into, we mentor them, we give them advice, we influence them. So it's an ongoing give and take that I think is extremely rewarding to do it, and it has a real mission on its own.
Herman, would you tell us a little bit about UMEV? That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, definitely. So my background, how I started the company, is it's been around for like almost 5 years. It's kind of weird because I come from design. I've always been digital. I love technology. I actually did the first podcast ever in Spain 12 years ago, which nobody even knew how to say podcast. They said poscat. So that was a very Spanish thing to say. That didn't work out very well. I lost a lot of money doing that because I didn't validate my market. But I've always been really interested in technology. It's been my passion all my life. And I started getting into events through an agency. I was working with a creative agency, and they were building events. And I started realizing that, we still use, and it still happens right now, we still use Excels, and we still use all this kind of technology that is not really digitalized in the sense that you could actually get a lot of insights from what's going on at an event. And we usually track events, and I say that events are the least measurable things out there because we track them by how many t-shirts, how many hats, how many drinks we give away, and that's our KPI or our return on investment. And it's really sad to see an industry so big that's trying to connect with so many people and not have the right tools to actually connect the right way, especially when you're trying to distribute content. If you guys been to trade shows, you see a lot of people dragging suitcases with a bunch of catalogs and a bunch of crap that people actually go to the office, look at it, throw in the trash, and forget about it. So we're trying to change that industry. Like we're talking about Napoleon, it's like world domination. It's like I really want to change the event industry. That's my goal. Like I really want to do a dent on that industry because I believe the industry right now, it's not dead, but it's a little bit broken and needs fixed. And I think technology could do it. So I got approached by the beer company in Spain. They wanted to do an event. They wanted to use RFID technology, NFC, which we use for the contactless cards. And I had, the reason they approached me because I had talked about a case study in Tel Aviv about Coke doing a pool party event where people could actually have a wristband, they would tap on a reader, and they would post a status on Facebook. This is back like 9 years ago. And they say, I'm here at this pool party. That was it, you know. But that was a really cool engagement tool, and it was a brand amplification tool that I thought it was extremely amazing. It was technology. So I started researching. Maybe I could do the readers. Maybe I could buy them from China and build them. And so I bought a bunch of stuff. I tried building them. None of them worked. Some of them burned. Things did not go as planned. And I said, wait a minute, let's look to the United States, see if there's any companies that actually do certain similar things. And I found a couple companies, one in Dallas, one in North Carolina, that were doing something like that. And I brought that company to Spain for like a couple years. They tried to hire me as their marketing director. I moved to Dallas for 3 months, if you want to go to Dallas, but don't live there. I personally didn't like it very much. It's not a very cool city. And I decided, these guys they're not approaching, the problem in the industry the way I want to approach the problem. So I quit. I decided not to work with them. We're in a partnership, and I decided to build Yumiwi. Yumiwi means you, me, and we, spelled the Spanish way, wrong. Okay, so that's what it means. And it's about you, me, and we bringing together technology to actually communicate better. And what we've built is an event automation platform that allows you to have every single part of your event, from pre-registration, registration, content distribution, data, feedback analysis, and all these surveys, all that kind of stuff that happens at events, completely digitalized in one place in real time, so you could actually access all your data, see what's going on, tweak the event while it's still going on, and not wait till the debrief of the event 2 days after and say, oh, we messed up here, let's fix it for next year. It's too late. So we kind of like brought all of this, and we brought the technology so people could frictionless and seamless interact and gather all this digital content, and we're measuring who's doing what, demographically speaking, and we're providing all this valuable data. As an example, Volkswagen is one of our big clients in Spain. We use them for a lot of events, and what we've done is we segregate the information when people go to events to test drive cars. We know from what zip code they come from our postal code, so we send that information back to the dealerships. Dealerships contact you directly. They do test drive, and they've had a lot of return on their investment because they're selling a lot more cars now because it's been more personalized. So we try to personalize the message. We understand you guys are too busy to read through a lot of stuff, so we know what you like because we've seen your interactions, and through that sequence, we give you the proper information for you to take decision action on buying. Pretty much, that's what it does.
Have you ever gone through some accelerators? And I suppose not through StartupWise guys, but some others.
Well, we're self-funded. We haven't had any investors whatsoever. Yeah, that's something we're actually beginning now to scale. We're moving to a bigger platform, and we're scaling. And now it's been the time that we're starting to think about investors maybe coming in. But it's a 4-year company, almost 5 years, and we have good revenue, but obviously we want to scale through Europe, then we're going to need some muscle, some finance muscle to help us out. But it's been organically growing, so that's kind of a big shift, especially for startups that usually get financed very early. We haven't, and so we've had a lot of issues, cash flow issues, and people not paying, and it gets you to the point that you become really creative what to do with your money and how to do it, because you don't have any. So it's not easy, like, I'm just going to get an investor, get, 200,000 euros, pumped into my account, and then I'm good for another 18 months. No, we're probably good for another 3 months. That's our life, you know, and we have to kind of like every trimester figure out the best strategies to get money injected into the company, but it's all organically. So we are looking for it, but I don't think we're in the accelerator stage. We're already a company. We like to think as a startup. I don't know if we're still a startup. Depends on the definition, how you want to put it.
So you guys both do like great things to like on your way to world domination. And I would like, and also Herman, actually we didn't tell in the beginning, but Herman is also mentoring Startup Wise Guys kind of batches and founders. So you are doing all this, you are sharing your experience a lot. So I would like to ask where you get the juice, where you get the ideas and advice, and do you have your mentors or like maybe just people that you know personally, or there are some people who you like watch and learn from?
One thing is don't sleep, or sleep little if you can. Read. I say that a lot. Just keep reading constantly. Be thirsty for reading. Books, I read a ton of books. I read maybe 2 or 3 books a month. I listen to audiobooks when I'm in the car. When I'm in a plane, I'm trying to see documentaries, whatever is gonna bring me information that is gonna help me build stuff, because it's just ideas that people have, and maybe it's not about your own industry. And also that's one of the big things I tell people is like, don't focus on your own industry. If you're gonna be doing something tech, maybe read a novel every once in a while, because it brings your brain to work in a different way, and your senses start to understand things a little bit different. You kind of like tie the knots, you know, kind of thing. Stuff like that. So I read a lot. I read a lot of blogs. I get inspired by a lot of things I see. I don't have a mentor yet because I haven't found one. I've been looking for one for the past 3 years, seriously, and I haven't found one that actually resonates with how I think and feel. And it's kind of weird. I would say that one of my best mentors is a 26-year-old kid that works at HubSpot in the UK. He's very smart. I've met him when he was 19, working for a technology company. He's a very smart kid, and the reason I have him as a quote-unquote mentor is because he gives me all this fresh insights on new generations that you have to be aware that I'm 43. I'm not 26, and I don't think like a 26-year-old. Even though I want to be 26, it's not going to happen. So I try to get myself connected with people that are actually at that age, because those are the people that are actually going to build companies in the future. So I kind of consider him my mentor because he helps me a lot in understanding new things that are coming out. But I mean, honestly, I just love to read and get inspired, go to conferences, go to trade shows, see what other people are doing, analyze and investigate a lot of other companies, how they've got to where they got. Get big companies and go back in time and see how their history was. That's something very helpful as well. So that's kind of where I get inspired.
Well, 2 things. So first, there's a personal side, right? So I lost my best friend when I was 18. I lost my first daughter. So I think life has taught me that you can't just wait for things to happen, and that you cannot take any day for granted. So I think one of my biggest learnings in life is that you need to make the most out of each day. That goes back to how much you sleep. I think I don't sleep not because I don't like it, actually I don't really like it, but because I have so much to do and so much that is amazing things to do, right? The second school, unfortunately, is failure. You know, I have bankrupt 2 companies, raised lots of money, have to be responsible of firing people, finding them new jobs. I have gotten divorced. So life throws you lots of curveballs, and you have to think 2 options. One is to say, oh, it was somebody else's fault, it was the market, oh, she was a bitch, blah, 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 blah. Or you can say, no, I'm co-responsible of everything that happens in life, right? And I look at myself as what could you have done differently to have a better outcome? So I think if we are self-critic, I think we have a lot to learn. And I think that's what life throws us, actually, the opportunities to learn not to not. And I think, especially when we get into 40s, etc., we have so much soft skills that we can, I don't think teach, but coach people that we work with. So I don't think we can never learn more about that 26-year-old about lead generation, or about how to do cost of acquisition, or how to do marketing campaigns. I'm not even a visual guy, so I can probably suck at Instagram, apart from making my pictures from my planes, right? But I can teach so much about culture diversity, about negotiation, about managing employees, giving feedback. And I think I don't have a mentor, but my first bosses were very good. Actually, my boss just passed away in December, the day before I was having dinner with her in Madrid. So it was like, oh my God, and she was only 51. But I learned so much from her. And my second boss is actually now works for me. So life is actually very interesting. But we have taught a lot to each other through life, right? So I was very lucky to have my parents have taught me a lot. And then I think I have an amazing team, and I have lots of startups that throw us challenges constantly. And I think you cannot approach people like you know it all. So if you approach people as I have things to give, and I have things to take, you're constantly learning. And I agree with you. Actually, I'm about to give a talk in the coming days. That was one of the ones I want to practice. And one of the tricks I have done lately is about how I can read more. How can I trick my trips, myself, to find more moments to read, to reflect. And I think we need to force ourselves to do it, because again, seeing other people, reading other people's things, constantly makes you think, how do I do things? How can I try new things? And I think we don't get old as long as we thirst for learning and trying new things. We just get a bit more rusty, and but we never get old. And if your brain keeps working, you can transmit energy constantly. So I think it's the thirst for learning and understanding that you don't know it all, very far from it. And if you give, you're going to take. And that's something that we also try to teach people, which is think long term. There's so many people that wants to trade. I hate traders. I don't give you so you give me. I give so the network will give back to me, and I will give back to the network. And if you do that on an ongoing basis, you make so much happening around you that is just unbelievable. Again, I didn't know this guy. My sister's ex-boyfriend, who is now helping us, knows this guy who comes, and then we meet in Armenia. And life is full of coincidences like this. You just need to seek them. You can't just go to Yerevan and just go to 2 talks and have dinner and go to sleep. No, you go for wine, you have breakfast, you go to 3 talks, you meet people, and if you do this constantly, suddenly the world is huge. And you know a lot of the people through people, and if you're generous giving, all these people is ready to give back. And the ones who don't give back, don't worry, we'll close them down. It's no problem. Don't be angry. Don't be angry about people who don't give back when you have give back, because the network will be generous for you, right? So I think if we have that one, we're going to be learning constantly, right?
Thank you so much. I think this is a very nice kind of small speech to stop at for a moment and pause and think about it, and just go to the questions from the audience. Thank you so much, Cristobal Alonso and Herman Coppola. Thank you, guys. Thanks for sharing all these personal insights. I intentionally didn't ask for some specific professional questions, because I'm sure there would be a lot from our guests today. So if there are some questions, raise your hand.
Thanks a lot for the motivational talk. It was really cool to hear that. So basically what I'm interested is just to understand how the Startup Wise is working, the whole program of the accelerator, because that's the most interesting part to get to know for us, how it works, was the terms to get in, and especially what do you offer and what do you expect back from that? How much options do you get from the startup if it goes through the program? What support do you give, how much investment and so on. So if it's not secret, and we can get the details on. So.
There is something that we don't have is secrets. You might not want to hear what we say, but secrets none. I think there is 2 facts here. One is the hard stuff, right? So give 20,000 euros cash for 4%, program for 4%, and 10,000 euros at the end of the program for 1%, which means you double the evaluation if you are good enough. And then we can follow up with 50,000 euros and up to $250,000, right? But that's another story. So everything starts on those terms. If you have done an investment before, so you can prove that your valuation is higher, we might willing to reconsider some of the equity for a convertible, but that's an exception. So that's the hard stuff. Second thing that is hard is you need to move to wherever we have the accelerator, so Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, full time, right? So, but my family, my chocho, my chacha. Hey, dude, you want to do world domination, yes or no? And if yes, you have to talk to your family because life is going to be much more difficult than moving for 3 months to Estonia. And if not, you should talk to your family or not do it, right? So it's almost a test to people about, are you serious about it? I want you to breathe, eat, accelerator for 3 months, your startup for 3 months non-stop, right? Because this is a core moment to take it to the next level. And the work is, what we give is very simple. We accelerate, right? But at the end of the day, we try to push you as much as possible. And I think we have a couple of very good examples with Armenian companies, even if Ashad was a pain in the ass until the end of the program. But at the end we came to the conclusion that now we understand why we did what we did. But we try to push you all the time. And some people don't like that we tell them that you suck, that you are not selling, that you are too slow, that why you're not doing this, right? But that's our job. So we expose you to many opinions, to many mentors. So I think we develop some critical thinking because some mentors will tell you go B and some mentors will tell you go D. And then you can say, oh, what do we do? I say, you're asking me? It's your fucking startup, dude. What would you want to do? Right? So we are coaches. We don't own the company. We're a minority shareholder. We're here to coach you. Hey, I can give you my ideas, but here immensely we are to push you as much as possible. And the best startups are the ones who early on can answer this. What's your main challenge this week? How can I help you? The worst startups, the one that say, so who is coming this week? Who is going to tell us the magic things? Who's going to give me, right? And sometimes we make mistakes. We just made one in the previous batch too. With 2 startups who had this attitude, didn't end up too well for neither part. And the best startups, they want to constantly understand what's the challenge. We have 125 investments, which means we have a network of more than 600 people. Soon we have a network of more than 1,000 people. Soon we're going to have the biggest network of co-founders in the whole CE and CIS, in which no matter what is happening to you, it has happened to somebody before. And there is always somebody ready to help if you know what the question is. And hopefully we have helped you to understand that how to challenge yourself and how to ask for help, right? So I think that over time is probably going to be the biggest value that we give to people, is this network that shares values and that has long-term thinking and can support each other because we care about you being successful. And success is not making an exit. Success is chasing your dreams, employing people, paying their salaries, and those 50 families that depend on you, you are responsible and you deliver to them with your hardest work possible and your biggest attitude. Hey, if then you exit, fantastic. 90% won. They will exit the next time or the next time if they keep chasing the dreams and doing things for the right reason, right? Long answer, sorry.
Yeah, so basically, but you want the company to be established in Balkan?
Actually, Startup Lithuania will tell you, if you are coming to the SAS one in Lithuania, we register in Lithuania, and it's mandatory. Why? Because part of the money in this fund comes from the government in Lithuania, who wants taxes back, right? As it should be, right? But that gives you actually an amazing opportunity in terms of visas, investments, etc. If it happens that you are applying when we are running in Estonia, then we give you a choice of 3 or 4 countries. But you need to register in the EU. I know you guys love to register in the US. We can't even discuss it. I think it's useless in most cases and very expensive, but we can discuss it. But mostly we want you to invest and register in the EU because investors will invest in EU companies. And they feel comfortable understanding EU is in English, it's all E, it can be done electronically, they understand it. You tell companies, please operate in an Armenian company, in a Georgian company, in an Ukrainian company. I said, good luck, buddy. Because they don't understand, they're afraid of but everybody understands the EU framework. They are very comfortable with Estonia. I think we are getting them comfortable with the Lithuanian kind of legislation, startup terms, etc.
One thing, like just a note, which I learned over the process is like people say like European investors are really afraid of investment. How to say, like the US ones are much more open and much more taking the risk than.
Yeah, my mom likes me much more than other moms. Yes, there is more money in the US, there is more competition. At the end of the day, you have a good company, you will get investment. Simple. There has never been in the Baltics, for example, there has never been a better time to raise money. There is 6 VCs with more than 20 million each under management. There is 5 accelerators giving tickets with follow-up capabilities. So sell, have MRR, and you will get investment. Yeah, they might get you better terms, faster terms. European investors tend to be focused much more in revenue, not in market, not in the product. True. So that's where you are. You want to go to the US? See how much money you need to live in San Francisco. How long you last with your buddies in Los Angeles. So there's different opportunities, different markets. Our general attitude to people is stop this idea to go to the US from here. It just doesn't work. But we don't believe it. But if you do it, it's fine. But our philosophy is we cannot help you on that. We can help you. You want to enter the EU. I think operating from the Baltics is very cheap. It's very similar to the cost here. You have a competitive advantage of how long the money can last for you. And then when you get product market fit, then you can go chasing the big money and decide to move on to the biggest countries. But until then, survive. The quest of the startup is survive until you find product market fit. And believe me, you don't find it quickly. It takes usually quite a long time, right? So the longest you have, the more chances to have to be successful.
My question mostly associated with your preferences. So let's suppose a B2B has its own challenges. For the country, similar ours, because we have not such developed relationship with the business. Yeah, it is a small country with limited resources, etc. But you have also the specific topics that you are interested. But mostly for us, maybe we see a big potential in some field that is not in your current preferences. What we can do? Like, we're gonna wait. You said that we will not wait for it. Yeah, we should act. So
I think if it's B2B, we're open to discuss it. If it's B2C, we are not. I think the biggest change right now is that we're even willing to look at hardware opportunities as long as there is a software component and we understand product to market in 1 year, because we can also probably even put tickets of 50K, so allows you to at least put a commercial prototype out of that one. But it has to be industrial, it has to be understanding what you need to do, so it's not easy, and we're not going to do too many of them. But I think the key thing is B2B.
So in our case, this is hardware and software, of course. So this is something that it is also challenging, because the hardware, it has some problems, etc. But it gives also the value of the product. It's quite difficult to duplicate, etc., etc. This is something that you really pay attention on the hardware, or it depends also
We are going to invest in 12 hardware companies in the next 2 years.
Okay.
4 companies per batch. We need you to have a 100 million euro company in mind with more than one hardware product, because we don't believe one hardware product can make 100 million. You need to have a family of them. You need to get a commercial prototype that can be commercially distributed within a year, and you need to be able to do that with 50,000 euros. Clear, right? Yeah. So if you have that, we can talk. If you need 3 years because you need a patent, a medical device, you need to have medical trials, etc., it's great, we probably won't do it, because we just don't look at investors.
Sometimes we have an MVP. It's enough for you,
To talk? Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much for this evening. I'm coming from investment background as well, representing venture capital fund in Armenia. That's why my questions will be pure professional. So the first one is, how long does each batch last? And how do you organize the investment process? How do you decide? Is there a special committee that decides in which startups to invest, or I don't know, you invest in all? And what is the financial instrument, the usual financial instrument that you invest with?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, very simple. So we run the batch for 14 weeks, 13 to 14 weeks. If it's Christmas in the middle, it might last a bit longer. The hardware ones, in fact, will run for a whole year. So the program will actually maximize the concentration with another batch, but then we will continue working with them because hardware needs more time. The process is rather simple. We have an entire recruiting team. This is part of the recruiting process. We try to get applications, be reviewed for at least 5 people in my team, usually a tech due diligence on top of those. And then we say, we like this team. So then we say, you need to come to the bootcamp. Means that, among other things, we need to sign a term sheet already before you come, and you need to start applying for the e-residence or for the Lithuanian visa process. And then you come to whatever city we have in this case, Vilnius, for example, for 3 days. We invite about 30 teams, and for 3 days, we mix them with about 20 to 25 mentors, LPs, VCs, so different opinions, apart from people on our team, and we collect all this feedback. Then we go into a room, like in the Pope, and basically we have all the scores in that room, and we have an official investment committee, which is in the room, but we have also our tech mentors and several people that we always want to listen to. And then it's a very simple process, because usually it goes like this. There is 30 teams, there is the best 5 that everybody likes, there is the worst 5 that nobody likes, right? So that's a very simple, and now we are left with another 20 companies. And we start from the bottom. We say, okay, somebody wants to defend this team. Okay, so that no, I really like them. Okay, so why do you like them? Try to convince everybody. And it's a process of iteration until we're basically left with 11 teams that we select and 4 backup teams, because somebody might drop, might say no, might die, whatever is the process. And then we officialize the voting, and then we start. We use usually equity. However, we can use convertible when the company has been invested by another company before, so we have to change a bit the valuation. But we try to do equity, but we are very flexible, equity versus convertible. I don't care, actually. We just do equity because part of the fund policy, but we can be flexible also. And the follow-up instruments, we always do convertible because we know we are pricing our own investment, and we try to do actually not lead investor, but follow up with somebody else, so they price the company for us. We have a shareholders agreement. We believe is very long, much longer than I would like, but it's still very startup friendly, even if a startup loves to fight it. But we have only anti-dilution until 75,000 euros, so just to make sure that your friend don't invest. Obviously, we have no anti-dilution. We are not in the board because we are minority shareholder. There is an ESOP. After the first ESOP, we dilute also. We don't have veto, but there is some decisions that have to be run through us. So, so it's a super, many investors don't like it. They want to control it much more. I will be giving a training tomorrow in Varna, in the Business Angel Network, about stop dreaming about controlling startups when you invest 50,000 euros and go with the flow, or invest 500,000 and then you can actually own a bit more. But how we have to stop controlling companies. We just have to make sure that they report properly, that they understand why they need to report, and then we just support them. And then we have a call once a month during the first 6 months. They need to report monthly, and after that we usually do every quarter we do, and once a year we try to get all the portfolio together, all the companies, all the founders, the ones who have, and spend 3-4 days together as a way to ample the network. And we expect 5 to 7 years for exit. So long-term thinking, if it happens before, but it's 5 to 7 years if we get lucky and they exit.
One small question. Who covers the cost when startups are in Estonia? And
You.
Okay. And how much does it cost usually? Like
a team, it's actually in the report, by the way. So I will actually advise you to go to startupwiseguys/report and download it. We have an assessment of the cost of living in the Baltics versus Warsaw, Kiev, London, so you can see more or less. But in average, basically, a team of 2 people in one apartment during 3 months is 5,000 euros, everything. Apartment, food, staying. So we give you 20,000, so you still have 15,000 left to marketing, to pay some, to hire the next person, etc. Lithuania and Estonia and Latvia are very, very similar in that sense. I would say Lithuania and Latvia are a bit cheaper than Estonia, but basically very much. So spend 5,000 euros expenditure by living there, and that covers also traveling a couple of the events that we go together, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.